With the advent of the orange season, we talk about autumnal books, those tomes which are best read with a hot cup of tea and a cool breeze, watching leaves drift lazily to the ground, scattered first by the wind and then brushed into happy piles. But what makes literature autumnal? Surely it has to do with more than just the setting we read it in. A number of themes come to mind. Autumnal literature is about coming of age, about growing older, about transformation and decay. Often it is beset by a deep sense of melancholy or nostalgia, wistfulness or loneliness. Autumnal literature is rich and emotive. It demands what is deepest and most difficult in life. In the autumnal piece, we are reminded of our impermanence, our mortality, our finality, even as we are reminded of our youth through themes of scholarship and development, and of the bounty of life by the presence of the harvest. So too are we reminded that things come to an end, that everything has its place and every season its time, here today and gone tomorrow. Autumnal literature is introspective. It seeks out our end in the two meanings of the word, our purpose and our conclusion. In some senses, autumnal literature is the most human literature of all. And so, as we open our chapters and dance and cry there on ancient edifices, and as we return to our roots in the Greek and in the fantastical realms of childhood, as we feel the cooling, the rain and storm of early winter, and as the sun sets on summer and the day becomes evening, let us bless this blazing, dying landscape, and thank God that a world awaits us, of which there will be no end. Hello everybody, it's Carolyn, and today I'm going to sit down and I'm going to stand up and look at my bookshelves as well, and I'm going to compile the ultimate autumn reading list. I love to organize the books that I'm reading, the books that I want to read, keep track of everything that I read on Excel spreadsheets. So I'm going to be making an Excel spreadsheet categorizing the best works of literature for autumn. I'm going to do a classic novel category, a classic play category, classic poetry category, and then a nonfiction category. And I'm just going to look around my house at all my books and pick out the ones that I think are autumnal and deserve to be on the best books for autumn list. I'm probably going to be skipping over a lot that I think are better for spring or summer or winter, but at the end of the day, I think my list is going to be pretty lengthy, and yeah, I'm excited to have it for my own reference, but I'm also super excited to share it with you all. So let's spend a cozy afternoon just looking at books and jotting books down and just thinking about books and thinking about autumn. Okay, hello. I have made my list, like I've racked my brains for all the books that I could think of to add to this ultimate autumn reading list, and I'm done for now. This is going to be a list that I'm adding to all the time, so hopefully by next autumn I'll have a bunch of new titles to add. I'm not totally sure what the best way to share this with you all is. I think I'm just gonna say the category and then read the title and the author. There's like 100 books on here, so I'm not going to give details about each of them, but based on how I described my interpretation of autumnal reads, what that entails, these are the books I've added. So trust me that they're autumnal and that they would be cozy and that they would be good to read in autumn. So I have 5 categories. First category, classic novels, and within that I have subcategories. I have Russian literature, modern British literature, American literature, modern European literature, and modern Canadian literature. Those are just novels, fictional works of prose. Then I have classical plays as my second category, ancient literature as my third, medieval literature And again, those are works of prose. And then I have classic poems and nonfiction. So, Category 1, classic novels, specifically Russian novels. Literature is great for fall and winter. We have Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Need I say more? We have Memoirs from the House of the Dead by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Demons, The Idiot, The Brothers Karamazov, Notes from Underground, and The Double by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Basically anything by Dostoevsky is autumnal. He deals with a lot of dark themes. He deals with death and aging. Some of his books are really spooky. Go read any of those titles this fall. Then we have Childhood, Boyhood, Youth, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, and War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, and finally A Nervous Breakdown by Anton Chekhov. Okay, moving on into modern British literature for fall. We're going to start with Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien. We have The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. So the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So good for fall. So good for all seasons, but also for fall. When I picture Lothlorien in The Fellowship of the Ring, I picture autumn. The Lord of the Rings series is, I would say, darker and more serious than The Hobbit. The Hobbit I actually classified as a spring novel in a different video, but The Lord of the Rings is definitely a fall read, and I am in fact reading it this fall. Then we have The Silmarillion by Tolkien and The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, which just go into more of the lore and the history of Middle-earth. We have Joseph Andrews and Shamala by Henry Fielding, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, The Little Minister by J.M. Barrie, Ulysses by James Joyce and A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe, and The Italian by Anne Radcliffe. If you haven't read Anne Radcliffe, she is a British kind of gothic writer, so her books are gothic, they're spooky. Charles Dickens. Some of Dickens' books are excellent autumnal reads, particularly Bleak House, Great Expectations, and Hard Times. Then I have like 6 books by Thomas Hardy, who is, in my opinion, an underrated British writer. Not a lot of people talk about Thomas Hardy, but I love his books, particularly these 6, which are very autumnal. These books are The Woodlanders, Far from the Madding Crowd, The Mayor of Casterbridge, Jude the Obscure, my personal favorite, The Return of the Native, and Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Then we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This might be the most autumnal book of all. If you do a search on the internet, what is the ultimate autumn book, Wuthering Heights is probably going to be the one that pops up, or it's definitely on the list of like top 5. The Professor by Charlotte Bronte, Villette by Charlotte Bronte, and Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, also very autumnal in theme. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. We've got all 3 Bronte sisters on this list. Middlemarch by George Eliot, Don Quixote by Cervantes. Come to Jane Austen. Generally, I consider Jane Austen more of like a spring summery writer, but some of them are more autumnal than others. And so I've got Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, Sense and Sensibility, and Northanger Abbey on this list. Then I have the Harry Potter series, all 7 books by J.K. Rowling. Obviously, I'm rereading Harry Potter this fall, just as light reading on the side. The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. One of the best series of all times. I love the Chronicles of Narnia. Some super obvious ones. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, of course. Dracula by Bram Stoker, of course. A Study in Scarlet and the Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, of course. Sherlock Holmes mysteries are perfect for the fall. The complete memoirs and short stories of Sherlock Holmes. Just everything you can find about Sherlock Holmes. H.G. Wells, The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, and the Island of Dr. Moreau. The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne. And The World of Christopher Robin by A.A. Milne. And then finally, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I've heard that a lot of her books are kind of spooky and have you on the edge of your seat, which is perfect for autumn. But I'm not super familiar with the other books, but I do know that Rebecca is fantastic. Probably on the list of top 10 reads for autumn. Let's get into American literature, American novels that are perfect for autumn. East of Eden and Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Secret History by Donna Tartt, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, The Scarlet Letter and The House of the Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Very deep and dark. Moby Dick by Herman Melville. The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. And The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Modern European literature, so essentially, sadly, any literature that's not British. The Sorrows of Young Werther by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. The Plague and the Fall by Albert Camus. Then The Diary of a Young Girl, or Het Achter Huis by Anne Frank. Modern Canadian literature, yay! The Anne of Green Gables series. I've talked about the series so many times on my channel because I've been reading through them all year. So good. So amazing for every season, but nobody captures autumn like Anne Shirley. She's the one who says, I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers. Everything about the series is perfect and makes me so grateful to live in this world and makes me so grateful that we have autumn. Moving on to classic plays. My list of plays is actually lacking right now. I should add some more. I can probably add a number of Shakespeare plays to this list. I just haven't thought that far yet. But we have Faust, parts 1 and 2 by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. So good. I love Faust. It's a huge inspiration for me right now. Go ahead and read that poem for spookiness, but also for kind of academic scholarly themes. It's got everything. I love it. And then Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Guess I could add right now Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Any of the Shakespearean tragedies, any of the Greek tragedies. Ancient literature, ancient works of prose. We have Metamorphosis by Ovid. It's all about change and time and aging. The Last Days of Socrates by Plato. Fall of the Roman Republic by Plutarch. One might say the autumn of the Roman Republic. And the Histories by Herodotus. Medieval prose literature. Confessions by St. Augustine. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, and The Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. Moving on to poetry. Modern poetry, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, Paradise Lost by John Milton. Ancient poetry, of course, we have the Aeneid by Virgil, and the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. Nothing says fall like poring over an ancient Greek poem in school. You know what I mean? Medieval poetry, The Wanderer and the Seafarer are two elegies. We're not sure who wrote them, but they have very strong autumnal themes. And finally, moving into the nonfiction category, Fear and Trembling by Soren Kierkegaard, The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis, also On Stories, and Surprised by Joy by C.S. Lewis, some of his best nonfiction works. The American Scholar by Ralph Waldo Emerson, originally a presentation, but published as an essay. Famous essay about being a scholar in America and what that means. The Literary Lives of the Inklings by Philip and Carol Zaleski. Awesome biography of C.S. Lewis, of J.R.R. Tolkien, and the other two Inklings. Mythology by Edith Hamilton. If you want to broaden and deepen your understanding of Greek mythology, this is a fantastic place to start. Surprised by Oxford by Carolyn Webber. Another fantastic biography about a scholar at Oxford, a lover of literature who comes to know Christ. And then finally, The Death of Adam by Marilynne Robinson. I think a lot of Marilynne Robinson's work could be categorized as autumnal, but to my shame, I haven't actually read as much of it in depth as I should. Okay, that brings me to the end of my list so far. And as I said, I've just been working on this week, and I hope to continue to add. Every time I read a new book, I'm going to add it to either the winter, summer, spring, or autumn list, whatever I feel fits best. This isn't a prescription like you can only read this book in autumn, you have to read this book in autumn, but I just love to read according to the seasons, you know? Autumn puts me in a certain mood for a certain type of book, and I think that's okay, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, so why not categorize books this way? Anyways, I hope that this has been fun for you all. I hope you enjoyed my list. Please comment if you have any suggestions for any of these categories. If you have the perfect autumn book and it's not on my list, please let me know. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again soon.